It's August 19th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the first anniversary of the Camp David summit between the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. The three sides once again endorsed their trilateral commitment to cooperate and stand together against North Korea's deepening nuclear threats. Talks are reportedly ongoing for a leaders' summit on the sidelines of a multilateral conference later this year. And to strengthen the defense posture against evolving threats coming from the north, Seoul and Washington are staging joint key summertime military drills named the Ulchi Freedom Shield for the next 10 days starting Monday. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is now in Israel, and what is his 9th trip already there since the war began to push for a Gaza ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists that pressure should be put on Hamas, not his country. Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo marked 1 year since their leaders held a trilateral summit at Camp David last year, where they agreed to strengthen and broaden their cooperation beyond security in the region. Our Oh Soo-young leads us this morning.
The leaders of South Korea, the United States, and Japan reaffirmed their resolve to tackling North Korea's nuclear threat and other regional and global challenges as they seek to preserve commitments made at their Camp David summit last year. They released a joint statement to mark 1 year since their first ever standalone trilateral meeting. President Yoon Suk-yeol, US President Joe Biden, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on Sunday said they remain inspired by the spirit of Camp David and the Camp David principles as a roadmap for cooperation, as well as the commitment to consult on threats and challenges to their collective interests and security.
Previously limited to traditional security areas, the scope of trilateral cooperation has become comprehensive to include economic security, advanced technology, cybersecurity, development, and human exchanges.
According to Seoul's Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-hyo, major achievements include a real-time system for sharing North Korean missile warning information, the first ever multi-domain Freedom Edge exercise between their militaries, and the establishment of a trilateral security cooperation framework. The three countries are also making progress on economic security dialogue, early warning systems to stabilize supply chains, space security dialogue, quantum research, and youth exchanges. The most significant outcome of the Camp David summit has been to set in stone that trilateral cooperation by establishing annual meetings between leaders, national security advisors, and ministers of foreign affairs, defense, and trade.
Such efforts to institutionalize the Camp David framework are becoming all the more important, as Japan and the US will have new leaders take office in the coming months.
This trilateral cooperation was attainable under the top-down approach, which was initiated by three leaders. In this sense, if domestic politics are changed, this architecture might be affected. In short, this type of top-down approach is rarely expected any longer if three leaders are gone or become weaker in their political power. In this vein, a key question should be whether a bottom-up approach can function as an alternative to a top-down approach in the era of post-three leaders.
A senior Korean official on Sunday said Washington and Tokyo value the importance of the South Korea-US alliance and South Korea-Japan relations, as well as the significance of Camp David, indicating that the support of the Camp David mechanism remains sturdy regardless of political changes. Still, the official acknowledged the need to create the institutional infrastructure to ensure the three-way partnership is stable in the mid to long term, adding that the three governments are sharing their views on launching a trilateral cooperation secretariat. While discussions on holding a leaders' summit are in the early stages, the annual gathering is likely to take place on the sidelines of a multilateral conference later this year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And starting today, South Korea and the U.S. have kicked off an annual summertime military exercise aimed at countering North Korea's increasing missile threats and cyber attacks. The Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise is a major combined military and civil exercise that includes a computer-based simulation and combined field training exercises. It also includes civil defense drills involving government agencies, which are set to involve exercises that simulate a nuclear attack from North Korea for the first time this year. South Korea's military said this year's exercise will involve more combined field training than last year, as it's set to hold 48 outdoor drills, including field maneuvers and live fire drills on land, at sea, and in the air. The exercise will take place in South Korea for 11 days until next Thursday. Now, the first anniversary of the inking of a trilateral security cooperation deal comes ahead of leadership change in the U.S. in November, and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's decision to step down and not seek re-election in the upcoming party leadership vote next month. Let's turn to Dr. Bruce Bennett for more. Hello there.
Hello.
So, like I said, it's been a year since South Korea, the U.S. and Japan secured their security cooperation pact. And there's also said to be a change of leadership over in Washington as well as in Tokyo. What would that mean for the trilateral cooperation and their partnership?
Well, the cooperation is always a function of the leaders and their willingness to work with each other. But increasingly, I think South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. recognize that there really is no choice other than to be cooperating, that the security threats in this region are significant, that the need for economic cooperation is significant. And so I think regardless of who the eventual leaders are, maintaining some degree of significant trilateral cooperation will be decided as a key policy for the three countries.
And also, starting this week, South Korea and the U.S. are conducting a major combined military drill to boost their joint defense readiness in the face of North Korea's growing military provocations. Now, what would that mean in terms of the partnership and the allies of Seoul and Washington working together to combat North Korean threats?
Well, North Korea seems to be searching for ways to challenge South Korea and the U.S. Kim has consistently talked about annihilating South Korea or totally destroying it. Well, he knows that if he does that, he's a dead man. That's not an option that's attractive to him. So he's looking for other ways to challenge South Korea and the U.S. And so it's critical for South Korea and the U.S. to do a diverse set of training, a diverse set of preparation, so that we're able to handle whatever his people finally decide to do in some form of more limited activity. Nevertheless, he's also potentially threatening limited nuclear activity. And so the commands in Korea will be looking at what happens if there is a nuclear attack from North Korea as part of this exercise to make sure that we are better prepared.
Well, so North Korea expected to be constantly challenging Seoul and Washington. Then does that mean North Korea will stage provocative acts in response to the summertime military drills?
They always have in the past. And so I think we can expect that Kim will do that. It gives him an opportunity to demonstrate his power and strength to his people, which is important to him maintaining control. But it's just the way he acts. It's the way he's tried to do it to make it look like South Korea and the U.S. are serious adversaries, when in practice, these exercises are purely defensive. There's no offensive characteristic of this.
So are you saying provocative acts even at a time when the North is going through difficult times because of the heavy downpours that they had?
Oh, yes. No, Kim needs to divert attention from the problems of North Korea, from the economy being in such terrible situation. And so he's focused on the downpours, trying to respond to that, looking like he's a responsible leader. But he's also trying to divert attention to the fact that the U.S. and South Korea are such terrible adversaries, the way he describes it, and therefore that he needs to spend so much on defense, when in practice, that's just not the case.
Well, at the same time, though, leader Kim Jong-un himself has been visiting his people in those flood-hit regions. What is he trying to show here?
Oh, I think he's trying to show that he's a man of the people, that he's concerned about the people. He can't provide the food for them, but he's trying to make it look like he's the good old leader of North Korea. It's a little difficult for him to make that case.
Well, then I'm sure that means North Korea will be holding off President Yoon Suk-yeol's proposal for the unification, of the two Koreas, which includes reigniting dialogue between Seoul and Pyongyang. Will North Korea show a positive response to the proposal? What do you think?
Well, look at what President Yoon said. President Yoon said this would be a freedom-based unification. That's something that Kim has no interest in. He doesn't want freedom for his people. So President Yoon's got the perfect idea. Needs to have more discussion of unification because sooner or later it is going to happen. We need to be making preparation. We need to be preparing the North Korean leadership for such a unification. And making it focused on being freedom-based is perfect. It's the right approach. But Kim is unlikely to be happy about that.
Well, then how likely is it that Pyongyang will actually respond to the vision after the U.S. election in November? Will North Korea stay silent about it at all?
Oh, I think North Korea will probably try to take up their own approach. They will probably attempt to focus on whoever the next U.S. president is and divert attention from President Yoon.
Let's see how that goes. All right, Dr. Bennett, thank you as always for sharing your insights with us. We appreciate it.
Happy to help. Thank you.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv on Sunday, marking his 9th trip to Israel since October 7, 2023. The trip comes ahead of Gaza ceasefire negotiations that have been underway since last week, but which have yet to produce any significant results. Blinken is set to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the Defense Ministry and the Israeli President, before heading to Egypt for ceasefire talks. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes on Sunday killed at least 21 people in Gaza, including 6 children. However, Netanyahu is insisting that pressure should be put on Hamas and not Israel, adding that the militant group did not send a delegation during the ceasefire talks. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris continues to lead former President Donald Trump in nationwide polls, going into the Democratic Party's national convention, which will secure her as the party's presidential candidate. Lee Jae-myung has more.
Just a day before the Democratic Party's national convention kicks off in Chicago on Monday, another nationwide poll on the upcoming U.S. presidential election shows Vice President Kamala Harris leading former President Donald Trump. In the poll conducted jointly by Washington Post, ABC, and Ipsos on 2,335 adults nationwide from August 9th to the 13th and released on Sunday, the Harris-Walz camp leads the Trump-Vance camp 49 to 45% among registered voters, while the vice president has a 51% to 45% lead over Trump among likely voters. However, the latest poll shows that Trump leads Harris when it comes to some key issues in the United States. Respondents believe that Trump would do a better job in dealing with issues like the economy, inflation, immigration, and the prolonged conflict in the Middle East. When it comes to other issues like healthcare, abortion, and race relations, Harris has a double-digit lead over Trump. The latest poll also shows that Harris is enjoying growing support from swing voters. While Trump previously had a 4 percentage point lead over Joe Biden from independents in July, Sunday's poll showed that Harris has an 11 percentage point lead over Trump. Considered the classic swing voters, independents have gone with the winner in 9 of the last 12 presidential elections. Harris has seen slight leads over Trump in a number of other nationwide polls, but many pundits believe it's still too close to predict the outcome of November's election. While Harris officially won the Democratic presidential nomination in an online vote 2 weeks ago, she will accept the party's nomination and give her acceptance speech on Thursday, the last day of the 4-day national convention. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
And here in the country, the Democratic Party yesterday launched its new leadership at its national convention. As widely expected, Lee Jae-myung was once again elected leader, securing an overwhelming majority of votes. Our correspondent Shinawatra reports.
At its national convention on Sunday at the K-Spo Dome in Songpa-gu district of southeastern Seoul, the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea announced its new leadership. Lee Jae-myung secured his second term with a landslide victory, winning 85.4% of the vote and beating two other candidates. He broke his own record set 2 years ago for the highest vote share ever for a DP leader and became the first leader in 24 years to serve 2 consecutive terms. The results were based on votes from dues-paying party members, which accounted for 56%, 14% from party delegates, and the remaining 30% coming from public opinion polls. In his acceptance speech, Lee emphasized the importance of improving people's livelihoods.
We will become a more competent party dedicated to improving people's livelihoods. Let's unite the wisdom and strength of our members and the public to build a better and new South Korea.
He also offered to meet with President Yoon Suk-yeol to discuss pending state affairs. And during the national convention, 5 Supreme Council members, Kim Min-seok, Chun Hyun-hee, Han Jun-ho, Kim Byung-ju, and Lee Yeon-ju were also elected. They are considered hardline supporters of Lee Jae-myung, creating a leadership that is strongly aligned with him. Although Lee Jae-myung's second term has begun, his legal challenges are expected to remain significant variables as he currently faces several court battles. These include corruption charges related to property development projects during his time as mayor of Seongnam City, as well as allegations of his involvement in illegal money transfers to North Korea. His first court verdict on election law violation charges is expected in October.
With Lee now chosen as the new leader, he's expected to focus on both improving people's livelihoods and taking a strong stance against the government as key elections lie ahead, including the presidential election in 2027. Shinawatra, Arirang News.
KTX services are resumed between Daegu and Gyeongju following a derailment on Sunday. Korail has announced repairs have been completed, and normal services have resumed on Monday for the first train of the day. On Sunday at 4:38 p.m., a KTX Sancheon train heading to Busan from Seoul derailed when one of its wheels went off the tracks near Gomo Station in Daegu. All 384 passengers were safely transferred and no injuries were reported. After the derailment, hundreds of people crowded Jongdari station in the heat, experiencing significant inconvenience. The South Korean Baseball League set a new single-season attendance record on Sunday. The Korea Baseball Organization announced that on Sunday alone, over 91,000 spectators gathered across 5 stadiums around the country. That brought this season's total attendance to approximately 8.47 million, which is the highest ever, breaking the previous record set in 2017. The new record comes with about 80% of the 720 scheduled games played so far, with 147 games remaining. Despite the ongoing heat wave across South Korea, the season is expected to reach 10 million spectators for the first time.
Good morning, I'm Kim Seong, and this is The World Now. Ukraine continues its incursion into Russia's Kursk region, with the Ukrainian Air Force commander saying that it had destroyed a second strategic Russian bridge in a week. Now, Ukraine's military on Sunday released aerial footage of the strike on a bridge reportedly over the Seim River in Zvanoye, the second bridge in the same region to be destroyed after another strategic bridge on Friday. Ukrainian Air Force Commander Mykola Oleshchuk said that the aerial strikes will deprive the enemy of logistical capabilities, which significantly affects the course of hostilities. Ukraine is nearly 2 weeks into its biggest incursion into Russian territory seen since the Second World War. Kyiv says it has seized over 80 settlements across more than 1,000 square kilometers in the Kursk region since its surprise attack on August 6th. The Kremlin has vowed to retaliate, calling the Ukrainian incursion into Russian territory a major provocation. Now, Thailand's new Prime Minister, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, was endorsed by the country's king on Sunday, officially confirming her new position 2 days after Parliament voted in favour. 37-year-old Paetongtarn was approved by Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn in a formal ceremony in Bangkok after winning nearly 2/3 of the vote in the House of Representatives on Friday. The daughter of divisive former Prime Minister and billionaire Thaksin Shinawatra, she became the youngest Prime Minister of Thailand only days after her predecessor was dismissed by the Constitutional Court. On Saturday, the new PM's father was granted an amnesty by the king from serving the remainder of an 8-year sentence for graft and abuse of power. Paetongtarn is the third member of a family to serve as Prime Minister after her father and aunt. Large protests in India over a trainee doctor's rape and murder continued on Sunday, despite the Indian Medical Association calling for an end to the strikes. Indian union doctors marched on the streets of Kolkata with thousands of people who came out in solidarity on Sunday evening, chanting, "We want justice." A day before, on Saturday, a 24-hour strike organized by the Indian Medical Association had more than 1 million people expected to join, forcing hospitals and clinics across the country to turn away non-emergency patients. The Indian Medical Association described the rape and murder of 31-year-old female junior doctor around 10 days ago a crime of barbaric scale due to the lack of safe spaces for women, telling the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a letter that as 60% of India's doctors are women, safety and security measures are required to ensure the safety of their staff. Famed French actor Alain Delon, once described as the most beautiful man in cinema, died on Sunday, aged 88. He had reportedly been suffering poor health since a stroke in 2019, rarely leaving his estate in France's Val-de-Loire region. With his striking blue eyes, Delon was known for his on-screen tough guy persona in hits including Borsalino and The Samurai. French President Emmanuel Macron paid tribute to Delon on Sunday, saying the actor had made the world dream, while actress Brigitte Bardot said Delon's death left a huge void. Born just outside of Paris on November 8, 1935, Delon made almost 90 films during his career.
Good morning. The intense heat is showing no sign of easing out with a record-breaking stretch of consecutive tropical nights. Heat continues today with passing rain in the forecast for southern provinces and Gangwon-do province. Now, the 9th typhoon of the season, Jongdari, has developed southwest of Japan's Okinawa. And as the typhoon develops further and moves northwards, it will drop heavy rainfall to southern parts of Korea from tomorrow. And into Wednesday, the south coast and Jeju could see more than 100 millimeters of downpours. And for now, rain is forecast to lash down tomorrow night. So those near the water enjoying a late summer vacation need to stay on high alert. Meanwhile, this afternoon, Seoul and Daegu should get up to 35 degrees Celsius. Chuncheon, Busan, Gwangju topping out at 34 degrees. Now, the much-awaited Cheoseol, the second autumn season term, is this Thursday. But searing heat continues to bake much of Korea, at least through next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day and Arirang. Have a wonderful start to the week.